I'm here to talk to you about the future of the boutique hotel experience. And I suppose that I was asked to do that because my company, Paligroup, is a developer and owner and operator of boutique hotels. But when I was posed with the question and what I was going to talk about, I was really confused. I really didn't know what, I mean, you'd think that I would know exactly what I was talking about, but I really don't. And so before I did, I really thought that maybe I needed to put some things in context for myself, and so I could put things in context for you. And really what I did is I think we should take a step back before we really take a step forward. And so I think what's important to understand is that as of today, the 5 major flagged hotels operate 7.5 million rooms. So that means that every night, the population of the basically Manhattan or a small country are sleeping under 5 logos. And I think that that's a really important thing to kind of keep in mind, and also to keep in mind that these 5 flags have reward members of 200 million people. And that's a staggering number, and that's a staggering thing. And so, you know, how does that really fit into this whole idea of boutique and boutique experience? And I think we need to also take another step back and think about how we got here. And I think the first thing that we can really look at is the 3 eras of hotels, in my opinion. And by the way, this is all my opinion, and I hope I don't offend anybody with my opinions. But the first age of the hotel really, I think, can be traced back to what we call the sort of the golden era of hotels, or the big grand hotels. And that was sort of between 1850 and 1950. And as ocean liners and railways were connecting people, you found that there were these very grand hotels that were mostly independent or part of small groups, and they really expressed a strong sense of nationalism, and they were really grand, and they were very opulent, and they really sort of were pillars of what those countries in which they were located represented. And I think that that gave way to what I call the industrialization period, which basically was from 1950 essentially till now. And what's happened is as jetliners now were connecting us throughout the world, what you were seeing is this proliferation of primarily Western flagged hotels were now dominating the world. And they essentially went on this incredible expansion and growth, and truly a marvel, an economic marvel. And it was been, incredibly successful, and something that I think has really created an amazing infrastructure for travel and hospitality. But I think the byproduct of that, I think we can all agree, is that most of the personality was really taken out of the lodging experience. And so I started to think a little bit more now about what happened then, and what happened to change or to break the juggernaut. And I think it can all be traced back to 1984, when Ian Schrager launched and opened the Morgans right here in New York City. And I think that when that happened, I think it launched what I call the age of variety. And what that did is it showed that this premise of creating a hotel where the bars and the restaurants were packed with locals instead of lonely executives, and a design that was essentially outside of the box, was very important. It was very important for our industry, and I would tell you that it really changed and turned everything on its head. I'm not the first person to say this. I'm not the first person to talk about the virtues of Morgans and what preceded Morgans, but I think it's essentially the test case zero, the number one thing that happened that to change hotels. And so I started to think, it's 2014. What does boutique even mean today? I mean, I don't really know what it is, and I think that, I made some notes about some of the things I want to talk about regarding boutiques because there's too many things. I want to get through it. I do love to hear myself talk, but I know I'm on a time limit. So I would argue to you that the boutique hotel world has become a victim of its own success. And, even Ian Schrager in his infinite success and creativity and all of the things that he did to change our business, that company is now Morgan's Hotel Group, which is now a publicly traded company. If you look, for example, at W Hotels, which essentially started 10 years after the launch of Morgan's to, in essence, draft on the success of Ian Schrager's success. That is the largest hotel chain that was launched in the last 4 decades. So, I would suggest to you that boutique hotels now have become an asset class. They're not really, if you think about boutique hotels in the way that I think we talk about it in the business community, it's like industrial parks, shopping centers, boutique hotels, flagged hotels. It's really become an asset class. And it's no longer, and I wrote this down because I love it, it's no longer a stylistic benchmark or authority in the experiential authenticity. And what that really means is that boutique hotels, at least in their earliest incarnation, were really they were the ones that were creating the most unique experiences. And so I would suggest that boutique hotels, as they're known in the asset class capacity, have become spiritually bankrupt. And what I mean by that is they are being designed by committee, or they're being designed to fit into an asset class. They're being designed in such a way so as to create an economically viable solution to a building or buildings. So I would say to you then that if all of these gimmicks and all of these sort of bespoke gadgets are dehumanizing, what does it mean to be boutique? And I think for today, for my purposes, for my opinion, I think it's meant to be independent. And I say that because from my own experience and the things that the things that drive me in creating my hotels and the things that I think create my contemporaries and the ones that I really, truly admire and who I think are the bee's knees. What happens is I think it's about going full circle. What do we do? What do I do? What do I focus on? And I think I focus on really what the Morgans was about. I always go back to that. And I don't think that Morgans stylistically or some of those things are necessarily relevant today because I think, it's 30 years ago. But, what it is that they did in the market and what they did, I think was truly very important. And so what I mean, it's independent. It's not what we create. It's why we create it, and it's a singular voice. It's coming out of not a design by committee or a focus group, and it's really about germinating and creating these ideas that are done in truly an independent sensibility. They're outside. They're not based on traditional math or traditional placemaking techniques. So I want to make a quick comment, which is that design in and of itself is not a competitive position. Design is one leg of the stool, but it's not really all of it. It's one of, I think, many points that need to go into creating something that's great. And so I think a clear distinction needs to be made. Is design authentic? Is it truly independent? So let's get right down to it. This is why I'm here. what is the future of the boutique hotel experience? And I think from my perspective, what I'm here to tell you is I think it's my responsibility, it's my contemporaries' responsibility to what I call deliver on a promise. And what's that promise? And the promise is being able to deliver a place where we can all be in on the joke, right? It's a place where we can be relied upon to provide an inspired experience. I like to say that people like to see places in which they visit through the eyes of a local. And I think that, the best boutiques, for lack of a better word, are the ones that do that the best. And I think that's something that we do well and something that we really focus heavily on. And so the future of the boutique hotels is not about size or design or asset class. It's about going back to the beginning. It's about going back to what Morgan's did. And that is, they delivered on this promise to create this authentic, ad hoc community of like-minded people who for an evening or a few nights live in this ecosystem that transcends nationality. It transcends conformity. It transcends a brand book and responds to who people believe that they are. Or perhaps better yet, it's a promise that they can be who they would like to be for that night. I call it placemaking. And for me, we take a holistic approach. We try and make it a truly authentic neighborhood connected experience with no two properties really ever being the same. But I think maybe spiritually having some of the things that are, that tie them. And so in the future, as I'm sort of wrap up here, I think that the promise is about creating this authentic hotel experience where people can insert themselves into a place that truly helps them lodge in a way that makes them feel inspired and connected to the cities that they're involved in. And so my promise as a boutique hotelier is I'm going to continue to do that. Thank you very much.